All right, so instructional-led training, ILT as it's called. So you may have experienced it yourself, or you may just even think that this word is not even relevant because instructional-led training is basically a learning experience that puts at its heart an instructor or trainer or a person who is usually advanced in the topic at hand and is able to help a group of people learn and advance. So usually instructor-led training is what we call the opposite of self-paced training, where although there is content, although there may be a person teaching, you are kind of going through the experience by yourself. So here instructor-led training is that you are lively learning from another person, be it online, in person, or a combination of both, which we call is blended learning experience. So instructor-led training is quite traditional as a method of training or learning, where you have that instructor that leads a group of learners, or you can have multiple instructors do that. So it can be delivered in a variety of formats, be it in person, online, or a combination of both. And quite frankly, although I am giving you some instructions on what to do here for instructor-led training, and you even have a template at the end of this section, one thing is that you will have to rely a lot on your common sense when creating instructor-led learning experiences, because it's not like a 1 + 1 = 2. It's more an art than a science. So we have the first one, which is classroom-based training, meaning or maybe a workshop type of training when you are actually sitting in a room and you have an instructor or a group of instructors helping you. So this method involves learners attending a physical classroom or environments where the instructor or instructors lead the course. This can be done in a traditional classroom setting or in a more informal one, like a conference room if it's in a corporate environment. For online training, this method involves learners accessing the course materials and participating through the learning experience through an online platform such as a webinar, a Zoom room link, or a virtual classroom. And usually this is live, so you're not learning by yourself. There is an actual person talking there and leading you through the course or learning experience, and at the same time, you have some offline work or homework to do. For blended learning, this method combines both the classroom-based and the online experience. So learners may attend in-person classes or workshops and have then access to online resources and activities to complete. And this is the one that's the most common. Frankly, I've used this most, where I use a blended experience, and it could even be an online blended experience. So we have live Zoom sessions, and then we give people some homework to do, and that they access the homework instructions online through email or learning management system, and then they basically submit it online, and the instructors would just reply offline or through like a one-on-one drop-in sessions or office hours. So it's pretty neat and a really great experience because you kind of mix methods and you give some bread room for people who want to have that me time or limited time, but just by yourself learning. You don't want to be with other people. And obviously there is self-paced training. This method allows learners to work through the learning experience and the materials at their own pace, so with the option to access resources and support from the instructor as needed. So that one is quite different. It's kind of instructor-led, but usually you kind of go through it and everything is asynchronous, like exactly what you're doing right now. You are learning from Udemy, and so it's a self-paced experience. You are here listening to me. I am your instructor, but you're not going to necessarily have a live call with me. So you may submit a homework or you have a question, and I'll answer it offline. So that's a self-paced learning experience. So when creating a lesson, instructor-led, or a module, or a presentation, or whatever materials, you as an instructional designer, you may not necessarily be the instructor. And that's very hard for people who come from a teaching environment. So as an instructional designer, you're kind of just like in the backstage. You're just creating content. You are structuring the micro timing of how that instructor-led learning experience is going to be, but you're not necessarily going to be a teacher in it. You're not going to be an instructor. And so you have to enable your instructors. You give them guides, like a facilitator guide. You give them PowerPoint presentations. You give them PDF homeworks, you design the questions, you design the homework, you design the examinations if you have them. And so it's really important for you to understand to detach yourself. But sometimes you may have that chance to be lively interacting during that instructor-led experience where you are there kind of like the time tracker or the person that makes sure everything is going well, or you may even teach a section or two. So it's pretty important for you to keep that in mind. So choose the most appropriate delivery method for the learning experience. Consider the audience, the learning preferences, and the goals of the training or learning experience when determining that best method. So create assets that are tailored to the needs of the instructor-led training or learning experience. This includes a lesson plan, instructional materials like PowerPoint slides or Miro boards or, I don't know, PDF guides, and assessment tools like you can build the quizzes, you can build the knowledge checks. You make sure you build ways for people to submit their work or ask questions. You even create learning communities. Like for me, I had the chance to create Slack communities that allows people to go on Slack and learn in groups. And these are all designed for the instructor-led formats. So create those assets that are unique to the instructor-led method. For example, consider incorporating interactive activities, group discussions, hands-on exercises, feedback. For example, I used to do this exercise called I like, I wish, I wonder at the end of each session during an instructor-led session. And it's a really nice way to get feedback. So you kind of think a lot and you put yourself in the shoes of not only the learner, but even the instructor, because you need to know how can they best teach and how can they best support those learners, and you help them to do so. And at the same time, you create hands-on exercises that take advantage of the instructor's presence so they can give their feedback. So emphasize on the importance of assessing and evaluating the effectiveness of the training and make necessary adjustments, and encourage the use of technology in the ILT formats such as virtual reality or gamification or simulations, especially if it's an online instructor-led experience. You can use a lot of the like education technology tools that can help you, for example, Padlet and things like that, and more that are more engaging and interactive. So provide guidance on how to handle disruptions, manage learners with different learning styles in a classroom setting or in a Zoom classroom setting. And most importantly, stress on the importance of building effective relationships with learners and creating a positive learning environment. So I would say you are kind of the orchestrator. You are kind of the person who knows exactly how that learning experience will flow with learners and with the instructor at hand. So you will have to create all of the materials. You'll have to think of timing. You have to think of creating calendar blockers if it's an online experience or even an in-person one. You have to make sure you enroll the learners. So it's a lot of work, but it's very satisfying at the end. So as you are learning and as you are trying to understand how things work, you want to plan ahead how that instructor-led learning experience will work, and you want to share it with your team. So you usually work with an this instructional design document, which kind of summarizes the methods, how things will flow during that learning experience, how will we engage the learners. And you don't have to have all the details. It's just a way for you to align with your team. Frankly, just to be honest with you, I don't really use the IDD model, the IDD document. Sometimes I just work on like a scrappy PowerPoint, or I work on a scrappy like Miro board, where I just show them a little bit how I envision the experience. I get their feedback, make sure everybody knows what to expect, if they have any thoughts on how to improve it. And then we start building the materials, building the PowerPoints, making sure all the modules are right, that the curriculum is there, that the learning objectives are there. And it's a lot of iteration and a lot of work. That's why we call ourselves designers, because we're not like in a straightforward type of thing. We're not coding or anything. We're thinking, we're iterating, we're getting feedback, we're asking questions. So we are meeting the needs of our team, our business objectives, our learners, and most importantly, our instructors, especially if you're doing an instructional-led experience. So you can download the instructional design documents and make use of it. But again, as I mentioned, you may just be more using your common sense here. But as just if you want to keep in mind two things about instructor-led training, is that you are the builder of the experience, but you may not be the actor in that experience, and that you are thinking in terms of materials, methods, delivery ways. You're thinking in terms of the instructor. You're giving them materials for them to teach, and you're giving learners materials for them to learn.